You a little bit of audio. It's Chris Whitty, who's the chief medical officer for the government, of course, as you know. And it's Whitty in the COVID briefing with Boris Johnson yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay.
It's yesterday's. Now, it's only a 45-second clip.
Yeah, let's do it, yeah.
But it's quite astonishing, Piers. And I want you to hear it because your response to it, I think, is, well, first of all, your response will be very academic. This is Whitty.
What about academic?
I know it will be. It's Whitty describing what the virus is, and I'd love to get your thoughts. So have a listen to this, and we'll be back with Piers Corbyn in a moment. Right, have a listen, Piers.
Certainly I've tried, and Patrick has tried right from the beginning, to balance two things. The seriousness of this virus as an epidemic, and it clearly is a very serious epidemic, but equally the fact that actually the great majority of people will not die from this. And I'll just repeat something I said right at the beginning, because I think it's worth reinforcing. Most people, a significant proportion of people will not get this virus at all, at any point in the epidemic, which is going to go on for a long period of time. Of those who do, some of them will get the virus without even knowing it. They will have the virus with no symptoms at all, asymptomatic carriage, and we know that happens. Of those who get symptoms, the great majority, probably 80%, will have a mild or moderate disease. Might be bad enough for them to have to go to bed for a few days, not bad enough for them to have to go to the doctor. An unfortunate minority will have to go as far as hospital, but the majority of those will just need oxygen and will then leave hospital. And then a minority of those will end up having to go to severe and critical care, and some of those, sadly, will die. But that's a minority. It's 1% or possibly even less than 1% overall. And even in the highest risk group, this is significantly less than 20%, i.e. the great majority of people, even the very highest groups, if they catch this virus, will not die.
Piers, is that Chris Whitty telling us in so many words that the lockdown was entirely unnecessary?
Yes, it is. It is him telling that. And it's interesting they give these messages out at the same time as pounding out data, talking about hundreds of thousands, millions around the world or whatever, to justify a continued lockdown. And I think on, the basis of the argument, is it dangerous or not? First of all, it was banned from being a highly impactful disease in March. So it's no longer an HCID, a high consequence infectious disease, and that was on March the 19th they ruled that. The second thing is we know that there's no more people affected by this thing than in a normal flu period. And furthermore, Chris Whitty is saying it's those data shows it's no more dangerous than a normal flu anyway. So in other words, the idea that it's a pandemic is completely false, and the government are admitting it. And a few days ago, before this one, of course, you may remember Sir Patrick Vallance said quite explicitly on one of those briefings, people who got COVID on the death certificate doesn't mean they died from COVID because they were not tested. Because they see doctors have been told, or the nurses or whoever in the hospital, put COVID on the certificate. Any excuse you might suspect they have COVID, put it on the death certificate. So therefore they up the numbers of death on official statistics, which are dying from COVID. And that, of course, is the basis of propaganda, to keep you at home, locked down into a new police state.